call to order the regular meeting of the Anchorage Assembly for November the 27th, 2012. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Ms. Drummond.
Here.
Mr. Trainey.
Here, ma'am.
Mr. Honeman.
Here.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Honored to be here by telephone.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Johnston. Here. Mr. Starr.
Here.
Mr. Trombley.
Here.
Ms. Oskiander. Mr. Flynn.
Present.
Mr. Birch.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Birch, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mr. Birch. Mr. Mayor, report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend. You can get used to these four-day weekends, I think. It's kind of dangerous. Nothing too much to report. We do have in town the Alaska Native Tribes service providers, which is primarily the BIA and other organizations that work with our Native tribes to help them learn better entrepreneurship, small business skills, finance, and working on issues of health and education. And it's the second largest conference of its kind in the state, second in Anchorage only to AFN. So it's been very busy downtown and a lot of hustle and bustle and a lot of friends from around the state in town. So we're pleased they're here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Assembly Chair has no report this evening, so I'll begin with Mr. Birch.
Only item we have is be laying on the table our ad hoc committee work on the notice of potential vacancy, a resolution of the Anchorage Assembly establishing a process in anticipation of potential vacancy on the Anchorage Assembly. I worked on with Mr. Trainey and Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think all of you hopefully saw my email that you have reconstituted our Assembly Personnel Committee. We met briefly earlier this week and concurred that we will be forwarding a resolution to the body to reappoint Mr. Hess as our ombudsman for another couple of years. Sentence seems appropriate. And we'll introduce that on December 4 for consideration at our December 18 meeting. Also, Ms. Johnston and I have briefly conversed. We will get to work on our legislative program probably in the latter part of December to have that before this body in January. And other than that, Mr. Chairman, AMATS is pretty quiet, and so I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Ms. Ostiander.
Mr. Chairman, no specific report. I just wanted to talk about an item. I gave 3 handouts to every member of the body, and we'll get electronic copies to the ones who aren't here. And I had the opportunity to go to a workshop put on by the home builders in regards to the third-party building ordinance that this body passed, and they're very happy with it. They say it's been going very well, and it's working like it should. The department came out with a draft policy on how they're going to implement the ordinance. I had some challenges with some of it, and I questioned whether or not these are policies or regulations. I spoke with the city attorney, Mr. Wheeler. I've given you the version that he went through. He did make some changes, and the areas that you see highlighted in yellow, he sees as regulations. He did make one change under the completeness section, and you guys can look at the difference between the two. And my challenge with it was that at the meeting, the department did not specify that they were going to bring it before the assembly for approval. They said they were going to do the 30-day comment period, the 5-day waiting period, and then implement the policy. And I've given everyone a copy of municipal code under regulations, and any regulation that a department wants to institute that deals with something outside the internal policy has to come before the assembly for approval. And I just wanted to I don't want to put the mayor on the spot. We had a meeting which I had to cancel. I apologize, Mr. Mayor. I didn't have the necessary information in front of me to have that meeting. I just wanted to make sure that we are in fact going to see that draft policy come before us for approval before implementation of those regulations.
Well, let's take a look at them first. I think, as Mr. Wheeler suggested, with one or two changes within the policy, it does indeed remain a policy, so it won't come before the body as a whole, but it'll certainly be available for anyone that wants to review it. I mean, it won't come for approval because the changes will make it clearly not a regulation.
Right, but how are we going to get confirmation that those changes have been made?
We'll obviously copy you on the next draft because obviously you're keen interest in it, and
sure.
we'll make sure that before it's implemented that you'll have a chance to review the next version of the draft.
Okay, so you'll share Mr. Wheeler's changes and recommendations with the department?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll copy everybody.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know that there's, from my understanding, there's kind of been a long-standing tradition that at times some regulations do get implemented without assembly approval. And I remember at the Title 21 meeting we had, or the work session we had on Friday of last week or the week before, I remember there was some discussion about maybe putting in a provision that would allow the department to make certain changes. And I just want to make sure that what we do right in there doesn't conflict with the existing code. And I know that's not directed at you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to.
But you are correct that over the years that has happened, and it's our goal not to have that happen. So your keen eye, I think, was good on the draft policy. And again, with working with Mr. Wheeler, I think you guys have found a good solution there.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the leniency, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Trombley. Mr. Starr.
No report.
Thank you. Ms. Johnston.
Yes, Mr. Michaelis and I are working on trying to have a work session as far as the port, just a very brief half hour, so that the Assembly is aware of what the mandate was from the user groups and from the city as far as going forward on the CH2M Hill study. Right now we're having trouble pulling together, but we would like to do something before the holidays, but it might be after in January, and it would include municipal manager and the Port Commission and some of the users. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Gray Jackson.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Horniman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looks like our next Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for the second Wednesday in December 12th. And I hope to have an agenda set by the week, but before the end of the week, and have it out there for you. Items of report.
Thank you, Mr. Horniman. Mr. Traney.
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Drummond.
Nothing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drummond. That completes our committee reports. We have no addendum to the agenda, but we do have one laid on the table, so I need a motion to incorporate.
So moved.
Okay. Any objection? Seeing, hearing none, I will read this one laid on the table into the record. It is AR number 272, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly establishing a process in anticipation of potential vacancy on the Anchorage Assembly. And with that, I would take a motion to approve the. Okay. I have one other laid on the table item. Do we have a number for this? Okay. We will we'll have to give it a number tomorrow, but it's an AO, and it's an ordinance amending Anchorage Municipal Code to allow for up to 16 catering and special events permits at the physical location of a public cultural venue without a conditional use permit. So with that, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda as incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to pull the item, so we'll get to it. I'm going to pull it. So.
Apparently, Mr. Wheeler is making copies. Okay. Okay, now I lost my place. We've got a motion to approve the consent agenda first and a second. Any items to be pulled? Mr. Birch.
Well, I presume we're pulling 9A1.
Mr. Flynn?
Whatever the heck you just read into the record, Mr. Chairman, I want pulled.
Okay, you've got it. Ms. Osiander, Mr. Trombley.
No items.
Mr. Starr.
9 Echo 1.
Ms. Johnston.
No items, thank you.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
No items, Mr. Chairman. Did someone pull 9A1?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Horneman.
No items, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Trainey.
Nothing, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Drummond.
No items.
Thank you. Okay, I'm showing that we have pulled 9A1, 9E1, and we've pulled a laid on the table that we do not have a number for at this time, but I will recognize that as the item with no number, Mr. Flynn, when we come up. Okay, I would ask for a vote on approval of the consent agenda unless the items pulled. Any objection to approval? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. We now have before us item number A9A1.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Starr, you're going to read on that one, and I understand we're going to combine E1 with A1.
Yeah, 9E1 is an acceptance of a report recognition from the Aviation Commission, and I don't know if anybody was here on that or not, but it's appropriate to give Mr. Lundaby his so due. So I'm actually going to present on 9A1.
Okay, prior to reading that, any objection to the approval of this 9A1 and 9E1? Seeing, hearing none, those that is approved. Mr. Starr.
Nope. Mr. Trombley, go ahead. We'll just.
Lundaby,
can you come down?
Sure. A resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing and honoring David A. Lundaby for 22 years and 4 months of exemplary service with the municipality of Anchorage. Whereas on August 6, 1990, Dave Lundaby was hired by the municipality of Anchorage and Merrifield Airport, and in 1995 was promoted from assistant airport manager to manager of Merrifield Airport, where he has worked continuously until his retirement. And whereas Mr. Lundaby has articulated the mission of the Merrifield Airport to provide an environment that meets the needs of the general aviation community, encourages private business, and promotes economic development while maintaining a viable financial position and being a good neighbor in the community. And whereas during his career, Dave was instrumental in developing a multifaceted program to eliminate the potential for runway incursions, which brought the number of vehicle pedestrian deviations from 323 in 1979 to only 1 in 2011. And whereas Dave successfully introduced an economical snow removal equipment acquisition and retirement program to a point where the airport utilizes a fleet sufficient to whip the toughest winter weather the Arctic can throw its way, thereby keeping Merrifield open at all times. And whereas, with regard to the FAA AIP process, Dave's complementary background of engineering and business management were ideally suited to compiling critical, near-complete, off-the-shelf AIP projects in anticipation of the FAA's announcement of potential funding, which allowed Merrifield and the administration to take advantage of federal programs as they evolved. And whereas Dave's sound approach to developing a working relationship with community councils and residents of neighborhoods surrounding Merrifield prompted the creation of Merrifield's Fly Friendly program to efficiently reduce aircraft noise disturbances and complaints. And whereas Dave championed the efforts of many ski-equipped aircraft pilots and through the public process of the airport master plan oversaw the construction of Merrifield's third runway to accommodate gravel operations in the summer, ski operations in the winter, and provide greater access for Alaska's rural citizens. And whereas Dave's natural ability to provide stability and consistency in his dealing with peers, professionals, and his employees is demonstrated by his service to 6 municipal administrations and the great employment longevity of the airport staff. And whereas Dave's dedication and commitment to excellence for himself and fellow staff has contributed to the indelible mark he has left on Merrifield and the people he serves, from the citizens of this great community to the entire flying public of the state of Alaska. And whereas Dave will retire from the municipality of Anchorage effective November 30th, 2012, now therefore be it resolved that the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizes and honors David A. Lundaby for his 22 years and 4 months of commitment, dedication, and service to the municipality of Anchorage and its citizens of Anchorage, passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly the 27th day of November 2012.
I'll be short.
That's fine. We have at least one comment. So,
okay. I'd just like to thank Mayor Sullivan and all the prior mayors for the opportunity to work for the municipality. It's been a very good place for me to work, very, very beneficial. I'd like to thank the Assembly for the continued support of Merrifield. You can see with that support of all the improvements and how the airport's come along. And lastly, and I guess most importantly, I'd like to thank the staff of Merrifield. Makes it the best place to work in the municipality, for sure. And I think like the most important. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Very good. Mr. Horniman?
Mr. Lundaby, thanks for your years of service and the longevity and continuity. Institutional knowledge is really important in this day and age, and particularly when it comes to aviation. It's a pretty big field, and knowing that we have one of the busier small aircraft airports in the world, that's at least in North America that I know of.
Thank you.
I know it's a big wingspan to fill. Normally I say shoes, but that's a big wingspan to have fill in behind you. So I wish your successor very, very good luck, and you've run a very good operation in Merrifield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Starr?
Well, I stopped in at Mr. Lundaby's office today, and you could tell from the parking lot and the luncheon that was being had there, the scope and the reach of how far he goes out. The cars in the parking lot, all the plates across the board. So tremendous asset. I think that's the relationship building that we're going to really miss is the link there of somebody that really has it together and knows the agencies and the interplay as that takes place. And we don't have roads in Alaska, and so how you come and go from the city of Anchorage that's vital there. So thanks for all that service. As a pilot, the safety factor can't ever be mentioned more than it has now. It's a very safe airport to fly in and out of, one of the few that's located in the center of an urban town and still behaves itself. So thank you for that. The building that you've done there, the legacy will continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Gray-Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, David, I'm on the phone, obviously, but I just want to thank you for your many years of service. I've known you, been there, and I remember when you first got appointed to that position, and you've done a fine job, and I just wanted to thank you and wish you well on your retirement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Gray-Jackson. Mayor Sullivan?
Yes, thank you. Just, Dave, thank you for your professionalism, years of support and service to the city. there's various departments in the city, and every one of them has their challenges, but in Dave's shop, you just never worried that things were being run right, and that really takes a load off, your executive team when you know that there's a seamless operation going on over there. Good luck in your next adventures, and I know there'll be many of them. Thank you.
David, on behalf of all of us, thank you.
Thank you.
We now have before us item 9F4.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, prior to anyone making a motion here, I'd like to make a quick comment. You know me to be a bit of a process geek. An item tonight that is introduced cannot be heard until our December 18 meeting. So it would be my preference that this be introduced on the regular agenda of our December 4 meeting so that the appropriate public notice process can take place. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Is that in the form of a motion, Mr. Flynn?
I can't make a motion. The only thing I can do is ask that nobody make a motion to introduce, and we just hold this over to next week.
Mr. Chairman.
I hear a voice. Oh, Ms. Osiander.
Mr. Mayor, could you explain why this is in sort of an unusual fashion, being brought to us in unusual fashion?
Yeah, and I'll let the municipal attorney maybe explain in more detail, but it is time sensitive in the sense that some of the facilities, this being the entertainment season, if you will, may come close to exceeding their allowable number of events that they can host, places like the museum, the zoo, others, and so this is designed to give them just a little bit more capacity before the end of the year. Okay. So if it's introduced today, I mean, it still can't be taken up in a normal period of time, so I don't see any reason to delay the introduction of it.
Thank you. Move to introduce.
Okay. Discussion?
It's introduced.
Okay, please vote.
Can't vote?
Can't.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I stand corrected. It has been introduced. This completes the consent agenda for us this evening. We will move to item 11A. AO number 7S, an ordinance amending Anchorage Municipal Code, Section 21.08.060, and amending Anchorage Municipal Code of Regulations, Section 21.90.003, to authorize the appropriate municipal departments and officials to clarify technical discrepancies.
Mr. Chairman, I move to postpone the action on this item until February 26th.
Second.
Mr. Starr?
Yeah, and I appreciate that allowance. What I see is slowly we're getting to where we need to be. I thank Ms. Osiander for alerting us to the progress in Title 21, specific to Chapter 8, that deals with some of the same issues. Not all of them, but a significant chunk of them. And quite frankly, I'm impressed if Chapter 8 from the rewrite is representative of what we're going to see. I think we're going to get a great product. So what I see happening is the issue that's related to 11A, however many times it's been delayed, is slowly getting solved in the rewrite process from that. And what hasn't fully made it vetted, we should take up on February 26th. That's my motion, and I think we can wait a couple more months. Thank you.
Mr. Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move to postpone this item indefinitely. We're what, 8 months after the first time this came before us. Ms. Osiander and the Title 21 Committee are going to bring a different version of this before us next month. It's not fair to the public to have to try and track an issue this long.
And procedurally, I don't know if I can second that as well. I've got a motion already on the floor, but I would either accept that as a friendly or concur with what Mr. Flynn's intentions are due to my earlier comments. I think we're going to get this figured out in the rewrite, and it's appropriate to postpone it indefinitely as well. Thank you.
If you accept that as a friendly amendment, any objection from the second? The second concurs, so that is before us to postpone indefinitely. Any other comments? If not, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. Okay, we are at a point in our agenda this evening where we can proceed no further until 6 o'clock. So I'm going to give us a break for our dinner break. Of the meeting. We've got a number of students in the audience this evening, and I would invite you to come up and introduce yourselves and share with us the schools that you go to. So who's going to be bold and be the first to the microphone? Come on up. Right there, that microphone.
I'm Casey Barker, and I go to Chugiak.
Well, thanks for coming, Casey.
I'm Orion Buckroyd, and I go to Chugiak as well.
Good to see you.
Thank you. My name's Tupea Asa, and I go to East Anchorage High School.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and I go to Service.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I go to Service. Hi, I'm Joanna, and I also go to Service.
Lucas Schlemme, Service. I'm Corey Schaefer, and I attend Chugiak.
Emma McVeigh, I'm from Service.
Kayla Martin, and I'm from Service. I'm Rain Dooley, I go to Chugiak.
I'm Geneva from Chugiak.
I'm Kennedy Kuchowski, and I'm from Chugiak.
I'm Chris Kavisa, and I go to Chugiak.
I'm Nick Boswell, I go to Chugiak.
I'm Nathan House, and I go to Chugiak.
I'm Allison Baumgartner, and I go to Chugiak.
I'm Alex Boswell, and I go to Chugiak.
I'm Jeremy Hansen, and I go to Chugiak.
Hi, I'm Brandon Bartlett, and I go to Chugiak.
Hey, I'm Brad Cooper, and I go to Chugiak.
I'm Sandra Evans, and I go to Chugiak.
I'm Philip Lambert, I go to Chugiak.
I'm Ashley Nugent, I go to Chugiak.
I'm Amy Hang, I go to East Anchorage High School.
Well, what an amazing turnout! Thank you guys. I think Chugiak actually took Service. I was trying to run a quick count here, but
Chairman, I heard a Bartlett in there somewhere.
I did hear a Bartlett and an East.
Chugiak is the problem.
Miss Osiander.
Well, I just wanted to crow. It's so unusual that there's more Chugiak than any place else. So, yay! All right.
Mr. Flynn.
I don't see anyone from the school district administration here, but if we could just get the question answered, was the requirement to attend a public meeting exempted for West High students?
No. Good point. We'll call and check on that one tomorrow, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Honeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask you if the next earliest convenience that you would have these folks introduce themselves, but it does appear that we've got a record number of attendees, and I urge you all to stay in attendance to the end of the meeting.
Yes, we do, and you may get lucky tonight. It may be a quick one, so you can always hope. We're now at that time for assembly appearance requests, and we have Nancy Wainwright. Nancy, are you here? Come up. You've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Assembly. My name is Nancy Wainwright, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight on a matter that involves that the Assembly must confront, because inaction by this Assembly will result in the demise of our neighborhood. I have with me one of my neighbors, Mr. Kessler. Back Road is a neighborhood where our kids grew up going from fort to fort, playing softball, having snowball fights. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting until this Assembly issued a conditional use permit number 2010-130. It's an old neighborhood. I'm one of the newer residents. I've lived there 26 years. Again, it was this conditional use permit that has resulted in health and safety issues, a decrease in our property values, and has made our neighborhood unsafe and unhealthy. I have a lot of ground to cover in 3 minutes, so I've provided a letter to each of you with documentation attached to it to support each of the facts we have here. First of all, what happened was the conditional use permit authorized a bar in our neighborhood, 23 feet away from the nearest neighbor's house. There have been 3 ABC board violations at the bar. The conditional use permit that the assembly issued said the hours were no later than 2 a.m., yet the storefront invites the public, invites people to come in until 3 a.m. A recent police report, again in your documentation, shows noise emanating from the facility at 2:38 a.m. The bar is supposed to be a private club, yet it proudly proclaims on its website, again enclosed in your documentation, that it is open to the public and invites the public. The most intractable problem is the noise. It is a bar. The patrons want to enjoy themselves, enjoy music. But that is understandable. But the problem is it is a bar in a neighborhood. These two uses are incompatible at this distance that the assembly permitted. There is no condition that this assembly could put on the permit that would make this use compatible. The Muni has recently documented noise problems, noise violations, both inside the neighbors' homes. It documented them as well as at the site. The ambient noise exceeded the Muni requirements, as did the site noise. That's documented by the report of Janice Neschheim from the Muni. The health and safety issues are numerous. The bar was permitted for 2,700 square feet, yet it occupies 4,000 square feet, including a beer garden that was not permitted. Most important, the bar has never received or applied for a building permit, electrical, plumbing, fire, or structural inspection. The neighbors fear for their own homes as well as the patrons of the bar should there be a fire or other structural issue. The Ocean View Old Seward Community Council has passed 2 resolutions. They are so concerned about this. They are included in your packet. Even though the bar's ABC renewal does not come up until this December, the Community Council has asked the Assembly to please not renew or reissue a conditional use permit in this location. I urge you to read the neighbor's letter. We also have binders here that document the plethora of violations at this location. I'm happy to answer any questions. We have neighbors here who are also willing to answer questions, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. There are no questions. You want to give those? Those are for the Assembly members?
Yes.
The binders?
We have,
okay.
We have only 6, but we have
That'll be fine. If you give them to Lisa over here, she'll make sure that they're dispersed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We now have for an Assembly appearance request from Angela Marsh.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for seeing me. I'm here about a new Anchorage Police Department policy that was issued by Justin Dahl effective October 1st, 2012 that states the Anchorage Police Department will not investigate or issue citations in vehicle crashes if no one is injured or the vehicle is drivable. It doesn't say anything if the vehicle is legal to drive on the road, just if it's drivable. My daughter was in an accident and injured, and they did no investigation. They did no report. They did nothing. They wouldn't return phone calls. She is now getting the short end of the stick because the guy changed his story when he went to the insurance company. This is affecting every driver in the municipality of Anchorage. This is affecting property owners because all these citations that are not being issued for all these crashes, and I'm sure you all hear the reports in the morning and in the evening of the rush hour traffic. I'd say if 50 tickets are being written a day, that's $3 million in revenue a year that you guys are losing out on. I don't know where it's coming from now. I asked for a copy of the policy. They quoted statutes and municipal codes that said there were 3 prongs. If it was going to interfere with an investigation, they will not release the policy. If it was going to interfere with the prosecution, they would not release the policy. Or if you could circumvent the law, they would not release it. The policy says they're not going to investigate, so there's no investigation to be interfered with. The policy said they're not going to issue a citation. There's no prosecution to be interfered with. They have not yet provided me what law I can circumvent by having a copy of this policy. The municipal attorney has sent me emails that said she'll give me a statement. I've got statements. My daughter was injured. They didn't even follow their own procedure. There are municipal codes that state the police shall investigate traffic crashes. I can't find one municipal code that says a department can issue a policy that is against municipal code. I've asked and asked for the attorney of the municipality to provide me with the code that says, hey, we can write policies that are against our own codes. Haven't been provided it yet. They can't come up with it. It's clear. It doesn't say they may. It says they shall. It is (9.06.020). It shall be the duty of the traffic unit with such aid as may be rendered by other members of the police department to investigate crashes. There are no exceptions here, but they've written a policy that gives them an exception. My vehicle is drivable, but it is not legal to be on the road. I am now fighting with 2 different insurance companies. It's been over a month, and I have no resolution. Why? Because they didn't even follow their policy that I believe is against municipal code. And I'd like a copy of the policy, because the 3-prong statute and regulations that they've quoted, it doesn't meet it. No investigation, no prosecution. They're not investigating. They're not doing citations. They're not doing anything. They're coming out to the crash. They're not even writing a report, and they will not return phone calls. So, got the insurance companies fighting. So, I'd like a copy of the policy, or the law I can supposedly circumvent by having a copy of the policy, because it doesn't meet the rest. And I'd like them to cease and desist from breaking their own codes that state they shall investigate these crashes.
Thank you. Your time is up, and there are no questions. I'm going to bring before us here in a moment item 13A. It is the intent for this to be continued once again to January the 15th, but I will open it and let it be known to anyone that testifies, you get to testify one time and one time only. So with that, I'm going to bring before the body 13A. It's a AO number 34, an ordinance of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly to adopt.
Waive reading.
Thank you. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all?
Redistricting?
Beg your pardon?
This is for the redistricting of the Assembly?
No, ma'am. This is Title 21.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Seeing, hearing none, before the body, Mr. Honeman.
Move to postpone to the meeting of January. I meant to get some help on this one.
15th.
15th.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any objection? Hearing none, this item is postponed until the meeting of January the 15th. We now have before us item 14A, AO number 112, an ordinance of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly amending Anchorage Municipal Code, section 28.60.035.
Waive reading.
Thank you. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none, this item is before the body.
Move to approve.
Second. Second.
Okay. Please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson? Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond? Did we get Ms. Drummond? Okay. That carries unanimously. We now have before the body item 14B, AO number 113, and ordinance.
Waive reading.
Thank you. This is before the body for testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing and hearing none, it's before the body for a vote.
Move to approve.
Second.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson? Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. We now have before us item 14C, AO number 114, and ordinance authorizing lease amendment number 7 between the municipality of Anchorage, Tenant and Peach Investments, LLC. Thank you. This item is before the body for testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none, it's before the body for action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson? Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. We have now before the body item 14D, AR number 265, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly approving alcohol.
Waive reading.
Thank you. This is before the body for testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all?
Ernie, it's Dick Trainee.
Yes, Mr. Trainee.
My son works for the law firm. I may have a conflict of interest. He doesn't live with me, nor do I get anything from him. He just works for this firm, one of my sons.
I could run through these questions. You anticipate to make any revenue off of this of any sort?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Mr. Trainee, I don't see a conflict for you with this item.
Need to bring it forward to you.
Thank you. Anyone to testify? Seeing, hearing none, this item is before the body.
Move to approve.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. We now have before the body item 14E, AO or AR number 258, a resolution of the municipality of Anchorage appropriating.
Waive reading.
Thank you. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none, this item is before the body.
Move to approve.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond? Ms. Drummond?
That was a yes.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. We now have before us item number 14F, AR number 259, a resolution of the municipality of Anchorage appropriating a federal health and human services grant awarded through the state of Alaska Department of Health and Social Services in the amount of $608,681.
Waive reading.
Thank you. This item is before the body for testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Starr.
Ms. Mahoney, I was wondering if this grant was already anticipated for the budget year upcoming that we approved. Do we have this accounted for? $608,000 for senior transportation. Have we earmarked this for any purpose in the budget coming up?
Through the chair, according to Mr. Wilbur, the answer is yes.
it was included in the 2013 budget.
And it's already earmarked for senior. You can just nod if you've already got it. Thank you for that. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Seeing no one else, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Trainee.
Yes.
Ms. Drummond.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. We now have before us item number 14G, AR number 260, a resolution of the municipality of Anchorage appropriating a grant of $77,757 to the public transportation.
Waive reading.
Thank you. This item is before the body for testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none, this item is before the body.
Move to approve.
Second.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That item carries unanimously. We now have before us item number 14H, AR number 261, a resolution of the municipality of Anchorage appropriating $1,001 of revenue
Waive
from
reading.
the... Thank you. This item is before the body for testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none, this item is before the body.
Move to approve.
Second.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Trainee?
Yes.
Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That item carries unanimously. We now have before us item number 14I, AR number 262, a resolution of the municipality of Anchorage appropriating $161,000.
Waive reading.
Thank you. This item is before the body for public testimony. Anyone to testify? Anyone at all? Seeing, hearing none, this item is before the body.
Move to approve.
Second.
Seeing no one in the queue, please vote. Ms. Gray Jackson? Mr. Trainee? Ms. Drummond?
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. This concludes our regular agenda. We have no special orders, no unfinished agenda. Anyone in the audience for public testimony this evening? Good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Assembly. My name is Jason Agri, and I would like to talk about our drinking water. We had some public safety hearings on this that have been concluded, and the Chair, Mr. Honeman, very kind, holding those. And what I wanted to give you today is some new information regarding the Juno figures that came out. If you go to the Department of Health and Human Services for the state of Alaska, and you look at the cancer mortality figures for Juneau, you find out that after fluoridation stopped there, they dropped 11% in Juneau. And it's because they stopped fluoridating in January of 2007. And it's very convenient because they have figures for 2005 to 2007 and then 2007 to 2009. And you see there's a marked decrease in cancer death after fluoridation stopped. In the rest of the state, it went up by an average of 4%, and also here in Anchorage went up by 4%. And these figures match the figures of what Dr. Dean Burke came up with, and this was a film that I showed at the public safety hearing with Dr. Dean Burke when he did a study on the 10 largest versus the 10 largest non-fluoridated cities versus the 10 largest fluoridated cities. He came up with a 16% less cancer in cities that are non-fluoridated. So I just wanted to let the body here know that this is an issue that is, I think, very, very important, because we're talking, we could save minimal, I think, about 100 lives in Anchorage for if we stopped fluoridating. So, and I know that's going to come up for a resolution, and I don't exactly know what the resolution is going to entail, but I would recommend that the resolution is to stop fluoridation in Anchorage 2.
Thank you. There are no questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing, hearing none. Any comments from the body other than a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.